Hello and good evening and welcome to the Tuesday Night Live show for March 22nd, 2022. Our special guest tonight is Jeff Santa Mac McMullen, who will be joining us from Wisconsin. So please stay with us. This is going to be a fun, action-packed show. We'll be right back after the break. This is Tuesday Night Live. Welcome back to tonight's show. We hope everyone had a great weekend and a great start to the week. I want everyone to please say hello to my co-host, Santa Barry Cummins.
Good evening. Glad to be with you. Glad everyone's with us tonight. Thank you for being with us. Looking forward to this great show tonight.
And say hello to Elf Angela behind the scenes, if you will. So, Barry had a little bit of a scare earlier, had a little bit of a funnel cloud pop up right near him. You want to tell him about it, Barry?
Oh, yeah. Just like any good Alabama redneck, when you have severe weather, you run and get your cell phone to go film it, right? And I went outside and got blasted by about 70-mile-an-hour sideways rain. And it wasn't a tornado warning storm, but, it had the requirements of a tornado there.
Yeah, well, we're glad you're safe. Glad you got hunkered down. Hopefully everything will go good for the rest of the night. So here we are, man. Week 11, season 2 of the Tuesday Night Live show. This year our guests have brought so much fun and joy. Plus the knowledge and the experience has been such a phenomenal learning opportunity for us all. Tonight's special guest checks all those boxes and then some. Jeff is one of the most sought after conference presenters and personal coaches in North America, training those who desire to reach the next level of performance and professionalism. Before that, let's go over to Barry for the Spangles promo.
All right, everybody. First, reach over there, give us a like and share this stream to help build the viewership of this show. And like I say, click like and share, and done all three, and you'll be entered to win a chance at his School of Santa School in Branson, Missouri coming up. So we appreciate Spangle for doing that for us. And now, as always, the first half of the Tuesday Night Live show is sponsored by Sleigh Driver Apparel by Derek Dugan. Thank you so much, Derek. All right, have those fingers ready. What is the salmon associated with in Irish mythology? What is the salmon associated with in Irish mythology?
Again, the answer to both trivia questions will be revealed at the end of the show tonight. And the winner of each one of the trivia questions will be posted tomorrow on the Set Bob's Live group page. They give us a chance to decipher through, get the timestamps, and come up with the true winners.
Good luck to everybody on that.
That's right. And this, of course, Derek being of Irish descent, we thought this was a great question to throw in for Derek's trivia question for the week. All right. Well, while you work on that, let's go ahead and get started with the show, Barry.
All right. Jeff Santa Mac McMullen comes to the Santa community with as many diverse performance skills as the North Pole has snowflakes. Jeff is a former Ringling Brothers circus clown and has presented over 6,000 family-based shows around the world, and as well as third world orphanages to royal palaces. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome live with us tonight from Appleton, Wisconsin, the humble vagabond, Jeff Santa Mac McMullen. Welcome, Jeff.
We lost him. There
I'm
he
here. I'm not sure what happened. I heard the introduction start and everything went black. I thought, well, we'll wait for the stage lights to come up, and there we are.
Just gotta love technology, Jeff. Well, welcome to the show, brother. Gosh, let's go ahead and get started on everyone watching the program all about circus life and how you got started clowning. At what age did you know that you wanted to become a clown?
As early as I can recall, probably about age 4 or 5. All my other friends growing up here in central Wisconsin wanted to be truck drivers and doctors and astronauts, and then there was Jeff. I wanted to be a clown, and but not just any clown. I wanted to be a clown for Ringling Brothers, and that was because my Uncle Tom took me to the Ringling Brothers Barnum Circus when it played here in the area. And I looked at everybody around me, and the clowns were making everybody laugh. And I said, that's what I want to do with my life. And I held that true to my heart all the way through elementary school. I practiced magic, and in junior high, I started to juggle and walk stilts. And high school, it wasn't real cool back then for guys to go home and start putting makeup on. But I practiced with my makeup, and I just never gave up on that dream of someday becoming a clown. And so really about age 4 or 5, my entire life, I've never had a normal job, so to speak, as an adult. I've been very, very blessed to be able to support myself and my family as a full-time entertainer in the variety of arts and the family arts. I did a short time doing stand-up comedy on the comedy circuit, 5 years, and realized that wasn't where my heart was at. And I left that world and came back to the children's world.
Fantastic. I read that you started out as a self-taught in juggling, performing basic magic acts. When was the first time you performed as a clown?
First class, well, I actually, in high school, I was involved in Boy Scouts, and I needed an Eagle project. So I used my clowning as my Eagle project, and I did clowning in nursing homes and hospitals for a couple of years. And that's really where I gained my performance as a clown. I was always involved in theater, but particularly as a clown on my own. I grew up in the hospitals and in nursing homes performing.
Very noble. So Jeff, when it came to getting started as a clown, how did you go about developing your makeup and your costuming? Or is that something that's associated with taking the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Clown College?
It is. Well, it was a whole new experience. A whole new experience. I went from kind of thinking to myself as a big fish in a little pond, really not even being a fish with a Ringling. They have a certain look, a certain style that they want, and the application. Got to remember when I was growing. This was in the mid 70s when I was learning. There might be 2 books in the Appleton Library that talked about clown application. That was my knowledge base. Unless you had somebody to mentor you, it was completely on your own. There was no internet. There was no YouTube. There was no electronic learning in that sense, and things on television were very limited as well. So being self-taught, it was a long process.
I think you froze up on us there.
Sure did.
I don't know if he's having weather issues or what's going on. Maybe we'll get him back here in a second.
If not, if you can hear us, Jeff, you may have to go out and come back in. Reestablish your link with us. Yeah, there he is. There he is.
I'm back.
There you go.
It's just a little vanity act that I do every once in a while.
Good trick.
No problem. I'm back with you. But when I was in clown college, we had the world's best the world's best entertainers working with us on our juggling skills, our gymnastics. With Ringling, I was primarily a stunt clown, a skill clown. So I did stilt walking, unicycling, magic, gymnastics. I got thrown downstairs, ran into walls, shot out of cannons. If there was something that somebody should be afraid of, they would send Jeff in. He'll do it.
Hey, let Jeff do it.
Well, you mentioned in your bio
I went from being self-taught of just sitting at the table trying to figure stuff out to having access to the world's greatest entertainers. It was just mind-boggling.
Jeff, you mentioned after graduating high school, you had a really unique opportunity with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. Had their first clown college down in Florida. There was about 6,000 applicants and only 63 got in, so that's pretty good. Traveling from Wisconsin, when you arrived, you said you got out of the cab and saw you were outclassed. So that was a great story. Share that with us.
Yeah, it changed my life. In 1979, I was allowed to attend clown college. As you mentioned, there were 6,000 applications that year. 63 of us were selected. I was one of 2 to get in without an audition. And I got on a plane here in Appleton, flew down to Sarasota, got into a taxi cab that drove from Sarasota to Venice, Florida. First time in Florida. And I got out of that taxi cab and in the Venice Villas, which was the apartment complex where we were all staying. And what I saw absolutely paralyzed me. I thought I was a good entertainer, right? I mean, I could juggle 3 balls and I could walk 2-foot stilts, and I figured, that was pretty good. What I saw though were Olympic hopeful gymnasts and people walking 12-foot stilts and juggling teams passing clubs back and forth, and they had their names embroidered on their juggling equipment bags. I carried mine in a little backpack. And I thought, as I looked at them, instead of embracing this learning opportunity, I got scared and I said, oh my goodness, I don't belong here. The thought of being one of 2 to get in with an audition came to mind. And I thought, oh my goodness, they don't know that I can't do these things. And I turned to get back in that taxi cab and said, I'm going to do the same thing I do anytime I get scared. I'm going to point the finger of accountability at everybody else so that I won't appear to anyone to be a failure. They don't know I'm here. I can get in this taxi. I can go back home. I can tell my parents that Ringling made a mistake. They really meant I should come next year. And I can call Ringling and say, hey, I've had a terrible family accident here. I just won't be able to attend. And therefore, everybody else will be being blamed for my fear of not really being brave enough to face that. And I realized at that moment that if I get in this taxi cab, my whole life, every time I become afraid of something, I'm just going to get in the next taxi cab, and my whole life is going to be full of taxi rides away from opportunities. So I decided to put on my big boy pants and go to clown college. I shut that taxi door and attended clown college. At that time was 12 weeks long, 12 hours a day, and the 6 days a week. The 7th day was optional, but if you didn't go, you weren't likely to get a contract. So it was really 7 days a week for 12 weeks, and I graduated. And I just realized at that point what a wonderful opportunity that was, and it literally changed my life. I grew up being dyslexic and kind of being laughed at, not always being the smartest kid in class and always pointing my finger at other people. But once I took accountability for my actions, my life changed. And fortunately, after graduating from clown college, I was offered a contract with the greatest show on earth, and I was living my dream. And it's been a dream ever since.
That's really cool. Can you share some of the great clowns you worked with and maybe some of your favorite skits you did with them?
I would love to. And I really feel that I was probably in the last generation of clowns that got to work with the great circus clowns. Now, there have been many, many good circus clowns since I've been there, but I'm talking clowns that were there for 30, 40 years, like Lou Jacobs. Lou is arguably amongst the greatest clowns of all time. In fact, he was so famous, he was the first person ever to have his face on a U.S. postage stamp while he was still alive. Presidents even didn't have that honor. I worked with another gentleman by the name of Prince Paul, who was a little person. And Prince was on the show for probably 30, 35 years. And just these guys they just knew how to work. They had great work ethic. They arrived early. They stayed late. They remained humble. They met with people. They understood that our careers as entertainers isn't about the paperwork. It's about meeting the needs of those who are willing to listen to what you have to share. And that's really what they taught me, was just always being available, and how to shine as a performer. It's about details and never taking anything for granted. So I worked with Lou Jacobs. I worked with Prince Paul. I worked with Frosty Little, Terry Parsons. These are names that a lot of people don't realize in the outside of the circus world, but those in the circus world know that these are giants.
Well, Jeff, you left the circus, returned home, and attended the University of Wisconsin Oshkosh, where you got an undergraduate degree in television and film production. Tell us about Arizona, Ronald McDonald, your time in Japan, and the most prestigious invitation ever, and the encounter with President George Herbert Walker Bush when he stopped and looked at you and said, "Hey, Magic Man, show me a magic trick."
That's you might have to ask that in parts to me again, because I might not remember all of them. But what was that? Yes, I left the circus. I was a touring member for one season. And we traveled all over. We lived on a circus train, and I toured for one season. And I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't. After I was in it, I realized that wasn't. I didn't want to be a 30-year person. But what I learned, I need to adjust my camera. What I learned on that was that as a performance clown, if I truly want to connect to my audience, I need an education, because the clown in a true essence holds up the funhouse mirror to life so that his audience can laugh at themselves through his or her actions. And in order to do that, I felt like I needed an education. I needed to also know what was going on in camera, because I was interested in doing film and being an actor. So I returned here to Wisconsin to go to UW Oshkosh. I got my Bachelor of Science degree in television film production. And the day, almost towards the day I started my senior year, I was offered an opportunity to play Ronald McDonald in Arizona and Southern California for the McDonald Corporation. And that was a job that I wanted dearly, because it would allow me the opportunity to actually kind of have a real job, but still be an entertainer. It was full-time work. And I wrote McDonald's every day for over a year. Every single day, including Sundays, I mailed them a letter asking for the opportunity to audition to be a Ronald. And I got turned down every time because I was too small. I was only 5'6", or still at, well, I'm probably not even that anymore. But at that time, they were hiring disc jockeys with a good voice and good talk, and they weren't really hiring clowns. They were hiring 6-foot people with a deep voice. And so they finally gave me an opportunity, said, this guy understands what this perseverance is all about. And so they gave me a chance, and I went down to Arizona and did my thing, and spent the next 5 years touring all over Arizona and Southern California with McDonald's. And they were wonderful to me. Again, they changed my life. They gave me a huge budget and all the tools that I needed as a young entertainer, and lots of stage time. So it was just great. I owe them so much. Today, the Ringling and McDonald's, and there were so many people that opened up to me to help me out, to allow me to continue to do what I do today. When I finished with McDonald's, I came back to Wisconsin.
I think he's froze up again. Folks, we apologize for that. Sometimes it does happen with like a Wi-Fi signal. For some reason, will freeze on you like that. I don't know about you, Bob, but if I'd been at Ronald McDonald, I think I'd been taking advantage of some of those Big Macs and quarter pounders. What about you?
Yeah, the fish patties too, the fish sandwiches. I love those things. Jeff, you may have to go out and come back in, brother. I'm not sure if you can hear us or not. North Pole free, as Johnny Grunwald says. All right, give us just a moment. We'll see if we can reestablish our link with Jeff. In the meantime, I hope everyone's enjoying the show. Jeff is such a fascinating gentleman in all the rights. Humble. You're not going to find anyone more humble than Jeff. He's done so much and has accomplished more than most of us will ever even dream of accomplishing in a career. And he's got 2 careers. And the second half of the show will be all about his Santa career. Right now, we're just talking about the clowning and stuff. We thought that it was important to get to know Jeff from his clown years as one of the most famous clowns around, like he said, and to be able to showcase all of his talents.
Bob, while we're waiting, why don't we just go ahead and bring in the other clown?
We can do that. You want to go ahead and bring Spangle in?
There he is. You're muted.
Hi there, guys.
There he is. We lost Jeff, so we'll bring you in, let you go ahead and do your segment, and then we'll go back to Jeff when we reestablish a link with him.
Hey, fantastic. Hey, this week we got a new product. We haven't even talked about it online yet. We've been saving it for your school or for your live. I don't know how well you can see this. I'm going to show it to you again here in a second on a red background. We have all the reindeer, and note Rudolph does have a red nose too. So we have all the reindeer, the decal. We have a Mrs. Claus decal, and we have a Santa Claus decal. These are great for the windows of your car. Here we go. Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus right here. We have the reindeer going up and down right here. Here, one way or the other.
Yeah,
Camera's backwards. Hey, we got all of these. They normally would be $5 each. And shipping, we're going to give it to you for $10, and we're going to pay the shipping. So you're getting it for like $5 or $6 after we take away the shipping. So let us know, see what we can do. And guys, I kind of want to thank you a little bit. I mean, we didn't get a lot of orders in last week on the reindeer cards, but I want to thank you because my darling wife was going to take that money that she made from all the reindeer sales and paint my man cave. And to this day, it's still green and yellow. Thank you. She was going to have a party.
That worked out good for you then.
It did.
I tried to get her to paint it crimson and white.
Mrs. Claus. What's that?
I said I tried to get her to paint it crimson and white, Spangle.
No, we don't want that. Green and yellow, brother. Cheese heads. But anyways, $10 is going to get you all of this. No, normally we sell them separate, but $10 get it all to you. We'll get it in the mail and let us know. So send me a private message on that. Don't bother Bob.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's go ahead and roll into this next part and finish up your segment, and we'll come back to Jeff. We got Jeff back with us. Go ahead, Angela.
It's trivia time.
Trivia time.
That's the prize for the trivia. You're going to get all of them. All right. Here is the trivia. How long does it take for a tree to reach the average ideal Christmas height? How long does it take a Christmas tree to grow to the average height?
Did you ever look that up to see what is the average height?
I did not.
Something you and I were talking about, wondering what the average height
It
is.
seems like our conversation went too long.
Yeah, my guess would be most houses have a 9-foot ceiling, average house. So I would say most would probably be an 8 foot high. But how long does it take is what we want to know. And again, we will reveal the answer at the end of the show. Go ahead and put your answers in. First one to get it correct on the timestamp wins the great prize.
See a lot of
New
answers
item.
coming in.
Right here first, guys.
That's right. So
That's what you get when you listen to Sat Bob's Live. You get to hear my new items first a lot of times.
yes, that's true. Because like you said, this is something that you hadn't debuted yet. So
Haven't even showed it. Thanks, guys.
very good.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Spangle.
much. We'll see you after a while. Go ahead, Angela, with the next.
You are watching the Tuesday Night Live show with Bob Berry and Angela. Sponsored by StuffForSanta.com and SchoolOfSantas.com, where you can find everything you need to support your Santa and Mrs. Claus business. Remember, if Spangle ain't got it, it doesn't exist. So contact Spangle at StuffForSanta.com today. Now back to the show.
All right, Jeff, we got you back. You was in the middle of Barry's last question down there, talking about the different things that he had asked you about. I think the next thing was you was moving into Japan.
Yes, right after I graduated with my master's degree, I was offered a contract back with Ringling Brothers once again to go over to Tokyo and set up a performing arts school for them. I was one of 5 American clowns performers to go over and do that. And what an incredible experience to introduce the world of westernized clowning to a culture that had no idea what we were. For many of them, the world of clowning was Perot in Kabuki theater, which would be traditionally slain about halfway through the second act. So when we as clown performers would live to the end of the show, it kind of confused them. But we had a number of wonderful students to which I continue to coach today, 30 some years later, and stay in touch with them almost on a weekly basis. One of the challenges that we had that we didn't necessarily have here was the cultural differences. For instance, when we taught pie throwing, I just lined up all the students, gave them a partner, when we would take pies and taught them the art of how to throw a pie so that you don't injure, number one, to get big splat, but number two, not to injure your partner. And I said, all right, here we go, everybody. Pie throwers ready, receivers ready. On the count of 3, let your partner have it. 1, 2, 3. And something interesting happened at that moment. Every male that had a female partner that was the thrower did not have an issue throwing the pie. Every male that had a male partner didn't have an issue throwing the pie. But every female partner that had the pie that had a male partner did not throw their pie. And it was a cultural disrespect for them to throw pie. So that was one of the challenges that we experienced early on in this, was getting to understand the culture. And I think that's really important for Santas to understand too, is if you choose to travel to different areas, it's our responsibility to know what those challenges are going to be before we get there. We don't want to learn them on the spot. Quite often it's too late at that point. So yeah, it was just a wonderful experience. I thank Ron Severini, who again is one of those gentlemen that has mentored me throughout my entire career, was the Dean of Clown College for me, and then was also my boss in Clown College Japan. And then there was one other question following that.
Yeah, AW. George H.W.
President Bush.
Oh my goodness. Yes. In 1991, I was had the opportunity to perform at the White House for the annual Easter egg hunt. And the president was out on the lawn, and I happened to be there, not in makeup. I was actually performing as a vaudevillian at that time. And he saw me standing in line in the receiving line, and he looked at me, and he noticed that I was dressed as a magician.
I believe he's froze on us again.
It's a long way from Wisconsin. Goodness. I got to say, everything that he's told us so far has been extremely fascinating. I love the story about the pie in the face. That's that's something that most people probably don't think about, cultural differences, as he said. So I found that quite fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. He makes a good point about being prepared. There is a lot of Santas that goes to different parts of the country, and one thing that might be accepted in one part may not be, in another or another country like that. So
Yeah,
do your homework and be prepared.
Yeah, even for someone like me who has such a heavy Southern drawl, and I don't speak real plain. I get complaints from my wife all the time saying I don't pronounce words correctly. So, I'm not polished. I'm rough around the edges. But I can imagine if I went to New York and worked a season, those people would be able to tell it immediately that I was from the South. I think Jeff's trying to come back in. We got you again, Jeff.
I'm not sure what's happening, but I appreciate you getting me back in each time. So the president was there, and he said, "Mr. Magic Man, do some magic." I waved my hands, reached inside, pulled out a little magic scarf, made it disappear. And when you do magic for someone, you can look. They look at like, "Oh, wasn't that cute?" Or they look like, "Hey, how'd you do that?" I got that. "Hey, how'd you do that?" Look, from the most powerful man in the world, and I tricked him with a.
We apologize, folks.
We've got an interview with Barry coming up here in a few weeks. I will be interviewing him. May bring in a co-host to help interview him on that show. But that's a great idea to do it the way you just put up there. So again, we're having technical difficulties with Jeff. Don't know why we're having this trouble tonight. We had him back in the green room for 45 minutes, and not one time did we lose connection with him.
Yeah, I'm back.
There he is.
Yeah,
let's go ahead and move on into the Santa part there.
My friends, I'm so sorry that it's happening. I'm not sure as to why, but we'll just keep going forward. And
you see what Scott Parker said? Did you read that? My mom said if you can't phrase that way, oh my God, it's working from Jeff. Funny stuff. All right, Jeff. Well, let's go ahead and dive back in and let's talk about your other great career as a Santa performer. Explain to us all how becoming a Santa for you has not only changed your life, but the true blessing it has turned out to be for you.
Yeah. I always thought as a performer, I was a good listener. We listen to our audience as performers. I realized when I became Santa that I really had very poor listening skills. It was a one-way conversation from the stage to the audience. And the only listening I did was whether they were applauding or not applauding to tell me if I was connecting or not. But when that first child sat in my lap and looked at me and decided to share some things with me, it changed my life. It taught me how to listen. And every opportunity that I have in the big chair is a blessing because they're sharing something that's very special to them, whether it be what they want for Christmas or something that happened to them. We all get those stories. Can you bring Grandpa back? My dog just died and all. It taught me to listen. And what it really taught me was the better listener I became, the better Santa I became. The better Santa I became, the better person I became. the better person I became, the better husband I became, the better father I became. It was just a very cyclical.
Froze again.
Same because Jeff has such a great story.
See if you can give him a few seconds. See if he'll come back here. If not, we may have to bring him out and back in. He did bring up a good point about being a good listener, because sometimes the little children will open up to you and tell you things. So that's another reason why you need to be prepared ahead of time for those difficult, answers and everything, and not to overpromise things.
That's for sure. And the point of making you a better person in general, husband, father, how true is that? That, true words have never been spoken.
Absolutely.
That's one thing I think we all realize our first year as a Santa. You're in a fishbowl. You're in a one-way fishbowl. Folks are always looking and seeing Santa or Mrs. Claus, and they're looking at you, and that's why you have to be on your best behavior at all times. And nowadays, in the world we live in, everyone has a telephone right there. It's got a camera in it, so you've got to be careful at how you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself, the words you speak, while in public especially.
Absolutely. Has any of our viewers got any questions or comments at this point? If they want to put it up there, now's the time to ask too. If we're bringing them back in.
Good point, David.
But, if you go into the chair unprepared, maybe as a new Santa and everything, you'll realize real quick, like if you're seeing a bunch of children, that you're vastly underprepared. So, if you're thinking about putting on a red suit or done it and hadn't been through a Santa school or something, think about getting some training or mentoring from some more experienced Santas, because it'll really help you.
Yes, that's something that we mentioned. Matter of fact, I even got a piece that I wrote a number of years ago about being a teacher and a mentor, which go hand in hand. If you're teaching, you're mentoring, vice versa. And that's one of the handouts that we give at my classes that I do. And that is so true. I know my first year, of course, you go into it thinking that you're prepared and you're ready. And I think most of us have a false sense of how simple it really, it looks, and how simple it really is on the surface. But once you sit down in that chair, or you go to a home visit, or you go do a HOA or a living assisted nursing home or something at a hospital, you find out real quick that this is a very complex job that we do, and that if you're not prepared, it'll really set you back in your mind. As Jeff was saying when he got out of the cab down there at the Circus school, how he wanted to just climb back in the cab and leave because he felt that he was underprepared looking at, the folks around him. You find yourself doing the same thing in the Santa industry.
And nobody starts out, like being a Hall of Fame Santa. It takes work. You have to start somewhere, get some experience and gain, and, bind yourself with good people and others that'll bring you up in your performance. And that's a good tip.
Gordon Bailey has a good way of putting it. We're all on this ladder that we're trying to go to the top. And we all have to start at the bottom and take one run at a time as we go up. And for me, I was fortunate to have several good mentors that worked really hard. They saw something in me, I guess, and stepped out and worked with me. And I was able to go up, some of those runs a little faster than some guys that wasn't getting that extra mentorship or training. And Gordon always says, be careful and kind to those that you step past on that run up the ladder, because eventually they may catch you and they will remember how you've treated them in the past. So that's always was a great lesson, something that I've kept in my mind year after year.
Here's a great tip that Bruce has up here. Your reputation is something that never can be repaired. Think of that every day. He's absolutely correct.
Absolutely. Great point. Great point. So, still waiting on to see if we can get Jeff back. We don't have but a handful of questions left, or actually just a few more questions left if we can get him in and finish telling his story. Everyone stick with us. We appreciate you staying with us tonight. We've been really lucky on this show. We had some technical difficulties when we first got started, and we worked through those and have actually figured out, the StreamYard and how to use this particular platform. I'm not real sure if it's in his cable supplier or weather related. Like I said, we had him backstage for a good 45 minutes before the show, chatting, going over the script, and not one time did he freeze or did we lose him. He was right there solid. So it's kind of unusual.
Anybody got any questions for Bob or myself? Well, we got a little time here.
So real quick, the Lone Star Santas had their annual roundup. That's where they bring, it's a convention style, similar to the Santa gathering or the ISC, not quite on the same level, around 150 people, Santas, Mrs. Clauses, and elves that showed up. And it's varied between 150 and just over 200 each year. They go from the Dallas-Fort Worth area one year to the Houston area one year and over to the San Antonio, Austin area. And so rotate between those. Had a great time down there. I didn't get to go this year. Spangle was down there. Chrissy Kovic, Costume Magic, was down there, and she'll be with me this next weekend in Garland teaching. But Spangle said they had a fantastic time. It was a great event. If anybody from the Texas State Santas, part of the Lone Star Santa group also. And so next time we get together, I'll get to talk to some of those guys that went and see what they took away from it this year. Joe Barney was the keynote speaker. Everyone knows Joe, another fantastic Barnum and Bailey Ringling Brothers clown that was actually born in the circus on the circus train, and fantastic keynote speaker. I was lucky enough to see him down at one of the other Lone Star roundups about 5 years ago. He was keynote speaker and put on an excellent keynote.
Mick Spangle will have his trailer there at Bob's class there in Garland.
That's right. 4412 Bass Pro Drive, Garland, Texas. That's Interstate 30 and Lake Ray Hubbard. Can't miss it. It's on the right-hand side, right behind the Whataburger. You'll see the Bass Pro Shop. It sits right next to the Bass Pro Shop. There's several restaurants there in the corner with it. Come on by. You're welcome to come in and shop Spangle's trailer. He'll be there Saturday morning all the way through Sunday. All right, Jeff, we got you back. You want to pick up where we left off?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I truly don't know. All of a sudden, my computer rebooted. It cut off and rebooted, and then it says, "Please wait for updates." No. Oh, so I'm glad to be back. Okay. So what Santa taught me, was just how to be a good listener, and to treat every child with respect and with heartfelt person in the world at that moment. That never happened to me. I had opening night at Madison Square Garden, sitting in center ring with Ringling Brothers, Barnum Bailey Circus, 80,000 people in attendance. You can't connect with 80,000 people the same way you do heart to heart, eye to eye with a child in your lap. That's what changed me.
Jeff, when was the first time you donned a red suit, and what stood out about that experience afterwards, once you had time to reflect and look back on that?
Sure. Throughout my career, every once in a while, a client would say, do you mind playing Santa? And they'd give me a cotton ball beard and a jacket to put on. And I played Santa. I played the role. Then about 10 years ago, our local mall Santa, who had been after me to be Santa for years and years and years, said, you really need to. I stopped looking at it as just playing the role and what do I need to do to become Santa? And I stopped referring to the Reds as a costume and referred to it as my wardrobe. It's semantical, but it really helped me change. When you put on a costume and Halloween, you pretend to be a pumpkin or you pretend to be a unicorn. I didn't want to pretend to be Santa. I wanted to be Santa. So I had to change myself mentally as well as physically to fit that role. So I started changing the terminology and calling it wardrobe and appearances. And so about 10 years ago is when I really it's what I am. It's who I am every day.
I believe you froze again, Bob.
Nice. Oh, I'm back. I'm not touching anything. Honest. So it's just a blessing to my life. And I really believe that everything I've done through the martial arts training, through my professional training, through my circus training, has prepared me for this most important role in my life, and that's to be Santa.
Exactly.
All right, Bob, you want to go ahead and take the next one?
Yeah. We actually had a special request from Mr. Bruce Templeton. He was on a few weeks ago, and he asked us about doing some simple magic tricks if we could get a Santa on that could do that. Told him, that we already had you lined up, and you was the perfect person to do that. So if you would, you perform these simple tricks for us back in Oklahoma City at our Sat Bob's class this last summer. If you would do us the honor and show us a few of your tricks.
I'm going to take a chance and move my camera. So I need to readjust this here, and hopefully we can get this to be seen and not freeze out here. Let's see. All right. Let me move this a little bit. We're playing. Bruce, I'm doing this for you. All right. So I'm hoping you can all see this all right. What I happen to have is a glass and a quarter. And all I'm going to do is take a little scarf and quarter, remove the scarf, and the quarter disappears. Place the scarf back over the glass, move the glass, and the quarter reappears. I love this trick. This is such a simple little trick. Now let me share with you how it's done. The scarf is very important because I'm going to do the trick now for you without the scarf. If I just pick up the glass and cover the quarter disappears. If I pick up the glass and move the glass, the quarter reappears. All you need to do this is a piece of paper, a quarter. I often quite do this with a tissue. I don't always need a scarf, and a glass that you've taken and glued a piece of paper to the top. All right. So you just take a glue stick and run it around that, set it down, and then trim it so that you can pick it up. Now, it's important that the paper that you put on the glass, because this doesn't work very well, right? Right. So you want to make sure that stage is the same. So that's just a little vanishing quarter, easy to make, and it gets great results. Now I'm going to move my camera back up here. Hopefully we don't lose anybody.
So far, so good.
froze again.
Yeah.
Let me show everybody a quick little trick I use. And I have this ring here that you can get from Spangle. It says Santa. It's got this beautiful red thing in it right here. And all you need is a D-light from your thumb. And you ask the child, would you like a little bit of Santa's magic? You take that D-light, you bring it out of that thing, and you can touch it to their nose. That's a real simple little trick that gets a lot of great wow factor there with the children.
Yes.
Or
yes.
you can,
absolutely does. And what that delight is the same little trick, that thumb trick that I did for the president, but it happens to have an LED light in the end of it. So very cool. Yes, I encourage everyone to, by no means do I ever want to make Santa appear to be a magician in a Santa suit, but magical things happen around Santa, right? So I encourage everyone to please take advantage of Spangles. He is a great resource, and we need to support those people that have dedicated their lives to take. You do need them, they're around. Can we, from time to time, order it cheaper for 50 cents cheaper on Amazon? Maybe. But we need to support our vendors. We need to support people like Derek Dugan.
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm just wondering if all that severe weather system is maybe somehow affecting the.
Yeah, very well could. Again, we had tornadoes all over North Texas last night within, I don't know, 20, 30 miles from us here where we're at. And even some a little closer to that as they passed off to the north and the east. Pretty bad. Came through Barry's area early this afternoon. It's going all the way up through the central part of the country, so that very well could be part of the problem.
There you go, Bruce. You was wanting to say, I just take this and it just fits on your thumb. It comes in like 2 or 3 different sizes. Looks just like a finger. You can put it under your gloves, but you can just do that right there. Or you can take it right here from Santa's heart to yours. Just a simple little trick that'll make it magical for the children.
That's correct. And the key to the D-light on the thumb is try not to let them see the side of your thumb. Try to hold it where that your thumb is coming towards them. That way they can't tell the difference in the thumb.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mac, we got you back.
Thanks. Yes, I have, this is a very simple little tool. What this is, I'm going to show it 2 versions. This is actually a fluorescent tube cover that you would put over a fluorescent light tube. You get them at Home Depot, maybe $2 or $3 for a 4-foot section. All right, this is one trick. I'll come back to that, but I've taken that tube and I've cut it, just taken a scissors and cut a length of it, and I've decorated it, and this is what it would look like rolled up flat. All right, and if we take this, you could put this in a little gift box or a little bag, and then you slide the rubber band off and conceal that, and then you can slowly pull this out of a gift bag, and it's an appearing candy cane. You can decorate it with red and white electrical tape, or you can simply throw it into the air and it'll snap open to become as long as you want it to be, 3 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot. It's very, very nice, very easy to make. And again, pack small, plays big. All right, but be careful the first time you throw it in the air. Wear some safety glasses. Not that I have any experience with that.
Good job.
And then using that same tube, all right, I've just taken some electrical tape and decorated each end. Now, for the purpose of this evening, I'm using rubber bands that you can see. It's just a rubber band doubled up on the end. Normally, I would take a green magic marker and I would color that rubber band the same color as whatever electrical tape I would use. Now, what I'm going to do is take that tube. This is a solid tube. It's not cut like the other one. And I'm going to place the scarf in to the tube. and I'm going to leave a little bit of the tail of the scarf out. And that's important as we're stuffing this in. All right. I'm going to take another scarf and I'm going to lay it over the top of that. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm stuffing that in. I'm going to take my finger and roll the rubber band. The children won't see this. Roll the rubber band over that and slide that scarf in to the tube as well. All right, now you can tell the little story about whatever you would like to do. All right, and then you just give a little blow, and the scarves come out magically joined together. Okay, and that's what that rubber band does. It just holds them together. Now they make this particular trick. It's called linking scarves. Imagine that with magnets. But I always found that the magnets were hard to line up. This is just two little scarves and a rubber band and a tube from Home Depot, and you're good to go. And you can put as many scarves. I've done 4 and 5 scarves in a little bit longer tube. You just need, every time you do a link, you need a rubber band to make sure that you're going to link them together. Very, very simple and fun to do.
And the first one you put in, you left a little tail hanging out. That's so that the two will connect it with each other as you're stuffing the other one in over it.
Correct. You got to lay. So this is one scarf. The other scarf has to lay over the top, and then you just roll that rubber band over to join them together. Couldn't be any easier, but you need to practice it, and you need to practice it with gloves on, because the rubber band is going to roll different with gloves than it does with just your fingers. I always like to tell people that you need to practice in performance mode. You can't practice just to practice. You need to practice as if you're going to do everything live. I mentioned to you earlier in our conversation, I hope not preempting anything with this, but I've got some neck surgery coming up. And I also have about 60 shows lined up for the summer with libraries throughout Wisconsin. And I know that coming out of surgery, I'm going to be in a hard cervical neck brace, potentially well into my summer. So I have rewritten my show and have been practicing my show with that neck brace on, because the time to learn how to move with that brace is not after the surgery. We have to prepare for those events prior to. Well, whether it be working magic with gloves, working with practice as if it's for real, not just practice for practice.
Great tip. Barry, you want to go ahead and ask the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your book, Tender Moments from the Big Chair.
Oh, I'd love to. They're just heart-melting stories. Many of my friends are amazed I've even read a book, much less wrote one. But it's tender moments of just children that have stories that families have shared with me, that I put into they're 25 stories. It's meant to be read like an advent calendar, one story for each day of December leading up to Christmas for families to sit down. And it really puts the focus back on not gifts, not the toys, but the true meaning of Christmas and family. So they're stories of women who have, for instance, a lady who came up to me and watched me for hours one day, and then came back and watched me for hours the next day in a big chair in a mall. And about the 4th or 5th day of me noticing there, I noticed she was in line, and she came and she sat in my lap, and I said, "Oh, we're getting our picture." She said, "Oh, no." She says, "You're the one." I said, "What do you mean I'm the one?" She said, "You're the one." She said, "My husband was a Santa. I lost him to cancer 3 years ago. And Christmas just hasn't been the same." She said, "I've been going around for the last 3 days from mall to mall looking for somebody that can put Christmas back into my heart. And you're the one." How do you respond to that? So we prayed. We're right there in the big chair. I pray a lot. And if I ever get called out on it, that's okay. I'm going to put my faith before rules of society. But and those are the types of stories that are in the Tender Moments book.
Yeah, I agree with you there on and that exactly. Now, for everyone who has watched tonight or has seen Jeff perform in the past, Jeff has a new training center at Kringle University. You may have seen it on Facebook, and that will be starting May 9th. Am I correct? It's called Santa Super Series.
Yeah, the Santa Super Series, again, pending my surgery, how I come out of recovery and my response time. I don't want to rush it. I want to make sure that I'm giving my students the very best I possibly can. I'm glad to see Derek is sponsoring your show. Derek Dugan, he's also on my board of directors, board of advisors for KU. And what KU is really about talking, really understanding and learning about the things that we've shared tonight, about putting that heart and soul into Santa. It's not about what we do, but how we do what we do. It's not, so often as Santas, we feel like we're a photo prop, right? Here comes another child. Okay. And it can become that. But what I want people to always understand, particularly Santas, is that the camera captures the moment, but that's all it does. It's Santa that creates the memory that lives in the hearts of the young and the young alike forever. So how do we do that? How do we treat each encounter special?
Absolutely. We appreciate that. Well, Jeff, stay with us because before we close the show, we have a segment called Santa's Point of View. We use this time as a teaching moment to share tips from our past experiences. Would you do us the honor to use this spot to give our viewers a tip or point of view about an experience?
Well, I want to make one thing very, very clear for everyone out there. This business can be very expensive. Um, One of the things that has helped me throughout my career is reinvesting in my craft, whether it be clowning, magic, juggling, puppetry, unicycling, stilt walking, whatever it might be, and certainly with Santa, is that I've set up a budget system. And I think this is the greatest point that I can share with people is so that we can have a budget when we need to buy a prop or if we need to reinvest in education. And here's my key. For every paycheck that I earn, I keep 60% for myself and for my family. 10% goes, I got them written down here. 10% goes into a prop fund. 10% goes into a wardrobe fund. 5% goes into education and 5% goes into charity. So that I'm very, very disciplined so that when a Spangles event comes up that I would like to be able to go to, I have money in the account. I don't spend the money at the end of the year if just because it's there. It gets carried over if I don't use it. And sometimes I have to adjust those marks. But I know you have an event coming up in Garland. And if I didn't have money set aside already, I may not be able to go. So I think one of the greatest tips that I can give entertainers is to have a budget. And stick to it. Put that money in an envelope or a separate account, and only use it for that. It's so easy to take that paycheck and gone. It's gone to bills. No, my bills comes out of the 60%. The rest of it I'm reinvesting into my future. So I think that would probably be the greatest tip that I could share with listeners is develop that budget. It might be 10% on this, 5% on that, 2%, whatever it is, but be disciplined and don't take it from this account to pay that account, right? So that it's always there. And the one that I want you to pay special attention to is the education. We need to continually become educating ourselves in our trade.
Great point.
Something that we stress all the time is, continue to educate yourself. Try to go to one school each year, if possible. Always be networking with your other fellow Santas in your area, and just always be sharing and working together and trying to improve your talents.
Absolutely. And I encourage you to go to as many different schools as you can. If there was only one way to do Santa, there'd only be one school. Go to the Set Bobs. Go to as many different of the conventions as you can and get different opinions, different points of view of how to play this character. Because there isn't just one way. You know, what works for me may not work for you. That doesn't mean that what I'm doing is right or wrong. It just isn't right for you. You need to discover your tool, your tools in your tool bag is going to come from a bunch of different sources, not just one store.
It's true. I learn something every time I get together with any of my brothers. You know, each show we do, I learn stuff. Each school I go to, each workshop I go to, each time we go to an eat meet, it's always valuable.
Absolutely.
Right, so we're going to move on and reveal tonight's trivia question answers. We don't want to leave everybody hanging on these. So for the first question tonight, which was Derek Dugan's, what is the salmon associated with in Irish mythology? The answer to that is wisdom and knowledge. Wisdom and knowledge. And on Spangles, stuffforsanta.com, schoolofsantas.com. How long does it take for a Christmas tree to reach the average ideal Christmas tree height? That would be 15 years. 15 years.
We had one question.
What's that?
David Brown wants to know where he can get the book.
Jeff, tell them where you can get your book at.
Sure.
Yes.
You can order it through www.kringleu.com. It's available, or just on Amazon as well. Mm-hmm.
That's correct. And we still
moments from the big fair
in our schools. I have that flyer that you gave us last year in Oklahoma City. We still print those and give them out at the schools. So that way everyone can get in touch with you about your book, or even if they want to take Kringle K. Kringle.
And, you know, Barry, I heard you mention something about the storm fronts going through. I'm wondering if that has something to do with our connection issues this evening. To all the viewers, I apologize for the inconvenience of that. But I'm always here. If you have questions for me, you can email me, jeff@jeffmcmullen.com, and I'm here to serve. I'm here to help.
Well, brother, you know, you've been performing live long enough to know that live is live and anything can happen. Right.
Now it's time to invite everyone to share and invite your friends to our weekly Tuesday night live broadcast, as well as our Bob and Barry live preview show. This at Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Time, as well as both of our Facebook groups. You can find us at Santa and the Business of Being Santa and Sat Bob's Live. And Jeff, thank you so much for coming to the Tuesday night live show and giving your time to share all your expertise with us all. But we know you got surgery coming up. And how about let's everybody bow our heads and say a prayer for Jeff right now. Will y'all pray with me, please?
Thank you so much, Barry.
Dear Lord, thank you so much for this day and your many blessings that you pour out on us, Father. And just ask you continue to be with our nation, our leaders, and our country, Lord. Be with those that's at war. Pray for peace. Lord, I pray for my brother Jeff that's has upcoming neck surgery. Lord, I just pray that you be with him. I pray for a speedy recovery and healing. And you guide the hands of those doctors that's taking care of him during the surgery and those providing care to him, Lord. And I pray that most of all, you use it for your glory, that someone will come to know you that's lost because of it. Give them opportunity to witness, Lord. And again, thank you for Bob and Angela in the show and all of our Santa friendships, those out in red. Some of you may have some prayer requests. God knows what's on your heart, and just pray that Father, you answer those prayers that's on people's hearts tonight. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And thank you.
Jeff, my brother, thank you for being such a fun and talented guest and giving us your time.
Thank you. You've had such a great lineup of guests. I'm humbled to be a part of that.
Well, there's no one on this planet that I would say is more humble than yourself, and we greatly appreciate you being you. Also, want to say thanks to all of our sponsors. Of course, Derek Dugan, along with Spangle the Clown and Daisy May, can't forget her. Thank you all for watching, giving us your time and support. Remember, you can catch the recorded replays of every Tuesday night live show, as well as the Bob and Barry preview shows that are on Mondays at 3 p.m. on the Sat Bob's Santa and the Business Being Santa home group and the Sat Bob's live group. So remember to join us for our next Tuesday Night Live each week, 7 p.m. Central, same clause time, Same Claus channel. Again, Jeff, thank you, sir. God bless you. Our hearts with you. And we'll keep in touch and make sure you make it through surgery and everything's going to be fine. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Angela. Thank you to all. Appreciate you very much. Until next time, thank you and God bless. Barry?
Thank you all. God bless you. Remember, we do this because we care.
Gentlemen, keep the magic alive. You're doing a great job.